I'm going to tell you some creepy true stories from abandoned asylums that are guaranteed to leave you with goosebumps. Willowbrook State School. In Staten Island, New York, there was once a school for children with special needs called Willowbrook State School. The institution operated between 1903 and 1987 and was originally built to cater for 400 students. By the 1960s, the number of students had grown to 1,100. The staff struggled to look after so many children, and it wasn't long before the school was rife with abuse. A former employee later said, "If you worked at Willowbrook, you were either in denial or blind if you didn't see it. They would beat kids and the teachers would watch. You couldn't get a reaction out of them." One day, an undercover investigation was carried out by the New York State Department of Mental Hygiene. What they found was so bad that 41 employees were fired and criminal charges were made against 22 of them. Things got so bad that the school was finally shut down in 1987. To this day, no one knows what happened to all of the patients. Some say they were moved to other institutions, while others claim they disappeared without a trace. Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Built in 1910 in Louisville, Kentucky, Waverly Hills Sanatorium was originally built to treat tuberculosis. It was thought that the fresh air and open spaces of the Kentucky countryside would help patients make a full recovery. But as we now know, this is not the case. In the early days, the sanatorium was fairly comfortable for those staying there. There was a cafeteria, a gymnasium, and even a bowling alley. However, the Great Depression hit hard, and soon the funding for the sanatorium dried up. By the 1930s, the place was filthy, and the patients were desperate. Conditions got so bad that rioting broke out. Patients were dying left, right, and center, and the body count soon started to rise. In 1938, an author wrote, "The hallways are dark, dingy, narrow, and uncarpeted. Many of the rooms are without windows, and the floors are littered with waste material. There is only one bathroom for 500 patients. This is without towels, soap, or toilet paper. All these conditions do much to discourage recovery." By 1940, it was clear that the sanatorium was a death sentence. It was then used as a storage facility and finally demolished in 1961. It's rumored that the ghosts of the patients still remain, and there have been plenty of paranormal investigations carried out since the building was abandoned. Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum was built in 1859 and opened its doors in 1864. It was originally designed to hold 250 patients, but quickly became overcrowded and was then expanded twice. By 1903, it was home to more than 2,400 patients. It was here that the horrific experiments of Dr. John Fulton took place. He believed that lobotomies could cure mental illness and performed 17 of them on the patients. Of the 17 patients, only 6 survived. He also experimented with insulin therapy, electroconvulsive therapy, and metrazole therapy. Conditions in the asylum were terrible, and it closed in 1994. It's now known as the Western State Hospital and is used for forensic psychiatric care. Danvers State Hospital. The Danvers State Hospital was opened in 1878 on the site of a former poor farm. The first patient arrived in 1879, and it soon became overcrowded. Just like other asylums, there weren't enough staff to look after the patients, and things soon spiraled out of control. Abuse was rife and lobotomies were being performed regularly. In 1933, the hospital was the site of the first ever insulin shock therapy. It was here that patients were kept in the dark and chained to their beds. They were also given heavy doses of insulin, which put them into a diabetic coma. While in this state, they were constantly monitored by staff. Sometimes they were left for up to 10 hours at a time. There were also reports of patients being buried alive while still conscious. It was finally shut down in 1974 and is now home to just over 100 bats. St. Elizabeth's Hospital. St. Elizabeth's Hospital was established in 1855 and was the first ever federal psychiatric hospital. It was originally meant for Confederate soldiers who had gone insane during the Civil War. It was here that many of them were lobotomized. After the war ended, the hospital took on other patients and it soon became overcrowded. By the 1930s, there were more than 3,000 patients staying at the hospital. This meant that the staff were overworked and underpaid. Conditions in the hospital deteriorated, and there were a number of deaths. In the 1970s, the hospital became the focus of a number of legal battles. This was because the staff were accused of abusing the patients. Finally, in 1988, the hospital was declared unconstitutional. It was then closed and most of the buildings were demolished. Waco State Hospital. The Waco State Hospital was established in 1909 to treat mental illness and developmental disabilities. For many years, it was known as the home of the hidden horror chamber. This was because many of the patients were kept in padded cells. The cells were designed to prevent the patients from hurting themselves, but they were often left in there for weeks at a time. One former patient later said, "They put me in the hidden horror chamber because I wouldn't eat my vegetables. I spent 3 weeks in there without any clothes and without a mattress. I had to sleep on the floor. Then they brought in the dog and made me pet him. That's how they kept me busy." In 1993, the hospital was investigated, and it was found to be in breach of patients' human rights. It was then closed and is now a museum. Pennsylvania Hospital. Pennsylvania Hospital was the first public hospital in the United States. It was founded in 1751 by the Pennsylvania Hospital Society. At first, it was used to treat both mental and physical illness. But in 1816, the hospital opened a separate facility for patients with mental health problems. This was called the Pennsylvania Hospital for the Insane. Conditions in the hospital were terrible, and it soon gained a reputation for being a place where people went to die. It was overcrowded, understaffed, and filthy. The stench from the hospital was so bad that people had to hold their breath as they walked past. It was eventually replaced by the Philadelphia State Hospital in 1881. Gloucester Mental Health Hospital. The Gloucester Mental Health Hospital was established in 1902. It was intended to provide treatment for those suffering from mental illness and disabilities. However, it soon became overcrowded and understaffed. The patients were kept in filthy conditions and were given little medical attention. In 1966, the hospital was investigated, and it was found to be in breach of patients' human rights. The hospital was then closed and is now a private psychiatric hospital. Eastern State Penitentiary. Eastern State Penitentiary was originally meant to be a prison for men convicted of serious crimes. It was designed to be the most advanced prison in the world, but it soon fell into disrepair. The prison was overcrowded and the guards were poorly trained. It was here that Al Capone, the infamous mob boss, was imprisoned. In 1913, a fire broke out in the prison and more than 30 inmates died. This was the final straw, and the prison was finally closed in 1971. It's now a museum. Now it's time to make your voice heard. Which of these abandoned hospitals would you explore if you had the chance, and why? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. See you soon. Bye.